Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News. TenZ's last foray into Valorant could have been over again last night as his substitution for the Cubit Academy did not go to plan. A decent individual performance from TenZ, but the rest of the team not exactly delivering. What has happened there over the last couple of days? Is the King ever going to return to Valorant ever again? One of the other big storylines of the day as well, because there's been some big drama happening with these qualifiers going on around the world. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Just to quickly let you guys know, I'm currently in Dallas for a Call of Duty event over the next few days. It's going to be difficult to get the content out every day for the next couple of days because there's just going to be so much happening at the event, and if I do get videos out, they'll be much later in the day than normal because of time zones, right? Like I can't do the video because the video normally that I would make live would be live at 6 AM Dallas time, and realistically I'm not going to be able to get up in time and prepare and record the video and do all the other stuff I've got to do on the other channels before that time. So that's why the videos right now are later, and yeah, we'll see. If there's big news, obviously I'll do my best to cover it. If not, we shall see. I'll try my best as always, right? You guys know how it is. Now, let's talk about a few things. Ye talks about Riot and says, like, please bring 1v1s, 2v2s into Valorant as a game mode. We know that Ye has made some interesting points. Era even says that TenZ make it happen because, like, all that has to happen is TenZ has to tweet about it and all of a sudden it's going to happen. Thought it was, obviously, Ye's tweets have been gathering quite some momentum recently because on the 9th of May he said other regions are catching up in terms of drama. NA used to be #1. Since then, quite a lot's happened, as you might be aware, in the North American scene. So maybe Ye's tweets have special powers nowadays. This, though, is a qualifier happening in the Pacific, and let's go through what's been happening. So this is effectively for the Esports World Cup, and lots of matches are happening at the moment. They were trying to find the Paper X matches because, well, Global Esports starting pretty strong, and that's very interesting, and we'll see the result in a second. As FNS says, please Paper X, I need to watch the games whenever it's available. Sorry, my guy, there's no link, excuse me, we will figure it out, they say. So, but unfortunately, it wasn't so straightforward, but Global Esports, in these best of ones, they're getting some good results. They've made a couple of changes, they've made some, additions to their roster, and they played T1, of course the Bangkok champions, on Ascent, who have been struggling lately, and they took them down 13-7. And this is the way that it currently looks. So, after yesterday, GE took down T1 13-7, PaperX beat Talon 13-9, they then beat T1 13-8 on the Lotus here, so the Talon game was on the Sunset, so cool to see it back in the meta, honestly. Talon then lost to GEs, I mean, what a result, right? So this new GE roster, the couple of changes that they've looked to make to the coaching staff as well, was enough to get them the win against Talon, and as it stands, those are the two teams that made it through. PaperX and Global Esports, they were the two teams to advance. Talon and T1 will not be advancing, and then tonight is when these other games go down, right? So DRX, Boom Esports, Nongshim and Team Secrets, they will play in this group to see who makes it through, and then effectively the two teams that win the playoffs, they will be qualifying there, I think, through for the Esports World Cup. As we know in the other regions, it's all about to conclude over the next couple of days. We've got the EMEA qualifier, which is looking something like this on the left-hand side, and then the Americas qualifier, which we know is looking like this with MIBR, NRG, EG, and 100T. The 4 teams that will become 2 over the next few days to determine who's going to go to the World Cup. Now, speaking of the World Cup, there's been lots of drama around this tournament. I mean, obviously, right? Like, it's very controversial. These are the teams that are going to be out there in Riyadh in, May 16th to, July the 3rd, right? So basically, middle of July, that's when the event is going to conclude, and the top 2 region teams qualified automatically from the playoffs, and then the other couple of teams are qualifying through these qualifiers that we are currently experiencing. Now, the big question is the World Cup going to continue like this? What's it going to look like going forwards? Because as I've made the point before, the Esports World Cup and, the public investment fund Saudi Arabia money is appearing everywhere in sports and esports. It's not even just exclusive to the Esports World Cup. This is also true, we believe, for Valorant Masters, for Valorant Champions. There will be, some of the advertising budget for the tournaments has been funded by the Esports World Cup in a very similar way. But of course, there's been lots of debates over the last few days about whether the tournaments can and should be boycotted, whether the co-streamers will actually, go for it, right? Will they stream the matches? Will they not? I think yesterday I saw that GeoGuessr, a tournament, the game that was meant to be played at the Esports World Cup, they've actually withdrawn from the World Cup after backlash from the community, right? So, effectively public pressure from the community forced, well, not forced exactly, but GeoGuessr decided that it was in the best interest of everyone to pull out of the Esports World Cup and no longer participate there. that was, you know, a pretty impressive thing, an accomplishment maybe, from the community. Now, does that work in Valorant? Can you make Riot change their minds? Pretty much regardless of what the community does, I don't think it's going to make any difference. And the thing that Tanmay mentions here is that apparently Riot's official VCT circuit will have something to do with EWC next year, because this year it's not part of the like official circuit, right? I mean, to such an extent that because there were EMEA matches happening, no one was able to even broadcast the World Cup stuff because they happened at the same time. So the World Cup is basically like an additional tournament. And effectively what's happened here is that Riot have said, okay, you can use Valorant at the World Cup and also pay us some money for this, that and the other, which is effectively how it's going. Whereas next year, the rumour is, according to Tanmay, that EWC will be like officially part of the calendar. So when we look at the calendar that they, you know, the graphic they bring out for the start of the season, it will show the kickoff Masters event, it will show Masters 1, wherever that is, it will show the Esports World Cup on there as being part of the official circuit, then presumably Masters 2 and then Champions. That would kind of be my guess as to how they might do it, or it might be Masters 1, Masters 2, then EWC, then Champions, or something in that kind of ballpark. I don't really know what it would look like, but right now EWC isn't like an official part of the calendar, it's just an additional tournament. The Riot have given them the access to play Valorant at the tournament, and therefore invite all the teams. Next year, it may be more of an official part of the calendar, with qualifiers and everything being very much official and all structured in cleanly compared to what it is today. So, look, it's all controversial, it's interesting. The reality is it's probably not going to change. Does it mean more Valorant? Yes, but obviously there's more to it than just that. The other big drama though yesterday, of course, was TenZ playing for the Sentinels Academy, the Qubit Academy. He subbed in, of course, for the team. They lost Scuba up to the Pro League for NRG. But as Redux says, so it's interesting for Qubit, just it's interesting timing because, look, I'm not saying that Zelsis should be getting dropped. Obviously, the team has qualified for Masters Toronto, and they've done very well, and that shouldn't change. But it was expected that roughly this time of the year, if Sentinels were kind of struggling, they would look down to the Academy and see, okay, who could we get? Now, of course, Scuba has been an incredible option, and NRG have signed him, and that's worked out very well for them, it seems, so far. Not to say that Sentinels, you know, should have got him or whatever. I think it was good for both parties the way things worked out, but Redux was kind of considered to be the man, and probably still is at some point in the future. But yeah, as he says, not much to say. We're not clicking right now. The team needs to turn it around. Shout out to Tyson for filling in. Sorry for disappointing. We played terrible. And look, they played YFP in the losers bracket and they got crushed. I mean, yeah, it wasn't like absolutely demolition job, but T-Dog, Redux, Nismo, TenZ and Knights didn't go to plan. 13-11, game 1 on the split. TenZ tried his best on the Euro, 20 and 16, not enough in the ends. And then after that, ran out of steam, 13-4 on the Lotus. TenZ top-fragged his team, but yeah, not enough. So TenZ stepping back in for Qubit Academy, just playing a couple of games, and unfortunately, like, you know, he wasn't expected to come in and drop numbers. He's not been playing the game competitively in a long time, but if anything, he was potentially the best performing player, certainly the highest ACS on the team, and the rest of the guys just not enough to take down YFP. So pretty brutal way for TenZ's brief Valorant comeback to actually, you know, come to a conclusion, as TenZ, you know, Sentinels say huge shout out to TenZ for showing up and playing on a few days notice. So pretty rough, pretty unfortunate, but yeah, maybe we'll see TenZ return at some point. The other talking point though is around that Marved team with Ambrosia and everything, because they lost to Ambrosia, Chet's Pets, they went down. Of course, a really tricky situation for them because they lost a couple of their best players, and now it's probably all over, right? Because their matey are pulling out, Chet's Pets are, you know, no longer going to be a thing, Okonos and Sato have now gone, and as we see in the match they played yesterday, Qubit Academy lost to YFP, and Chet's Pets went down to Ambrosia, and yeah, this was potentially the final game for a number of these guys. Victor, Marved, Bao, Geezer, of course, stepping in, Caillou there as well, so yeah, they lost 13-6, they won the Sunset 13-6, they lost the split 13-11, pretty brutal way to lose a series and bow out of the tournament, but yeah, that's how it looks for those guys. So what next, right, for many of these players? It's been a very strange stage. The match-fixing drama continues in the background as well. I'm sure that over the next few days and weeks we're going to hear some more stories on that, who might have been potentially involved. you know, who knows what's next for a guy like Victor, a guy like Marv, just because it's interesting how you compare Victor and Marv to where they are today, and a guy like Crashy is where he is today on Fnatic turning up to Toronto. But yeah, it's definitely a storyline, right? But sometimes that's simply how it goes. A couple of Scrimbux to go through as well, just before we finalise the video, because I thought it was interesting just to look at. Sentinels played TSM, they were up 10-9, so not exactly emphatic. But I will say, they're up 7-5 on 2G as well. But it does seem like this new 2G team is making a bit more progress. Just because here they are up 7-5 on 2G and you think, oh, 2G, they should be slamming them in scrims. But actually, Ixolos Laser, one of the best teams as we know from South America, potentially a serious threat for the Ascension this year. We're down 16-7 like to 2G. So maybe 2G are actually kind of nice after all. But very much interested your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.